we have studied more than 100 reports, and specifically for this summary of the end of phase 1, we have conducted 23 individual and collective interviews with 35 different players, community, or from various other levels, partners, organizations. Now, to do this summary, I had 5 assistants: Cassandra Ville, somebody whose last name is Ray, another sans chagrin, Jolie de Albuquerque. And also in the evaluation committee, we have Patricia Rossi and Marie-Caroline Junot. And I also piloted this summary as an internal researcher on the project. So the benefit of this is to favor reflexivity and to favor integration of knowledge within the project. So let's look at impact in the neighborhoods. So of course, this is an overview. We could deepen these issues later on in our discussion. So firstly, is that there's been freedom left in the neighborhoods, not only to choose on issues to be worked upon, but also how to do so. And this led to many various initiatives and strategies to fight against poverty and social exclusion. So I will name some of these strategies. So there's been the creation of new infrastructures where there had not been services before, such as community houses that give services. And this is also the result of several important collaborations before becoming material. There's also been the reinforcement of infrastructures with regards to food safety. So in Saint-Michel, for example, there's been a unique program with regards to environment and urban agriculture in Louis-Joseph Papineau's educational institution. And this allows students to become initiated to horticulture within the institution, and the harvest goes to neighborhoods and ensuring food safety. There's also been new practices with regards to various interventions. So working in proximity, intersectorial collaboration. This is central to several projects, namely to raise awareness and to act according to unhygienic conditions. Let's think of Côte des Neiges. There's also been school dropout interventions in Saint Léonard, and there's been cross-sectional work to favor community involvement. This was seen as UNSIC with regards to a neighborhood school. We also seek to influence policies and change mentalities. This implies risks and uncertain impacts, if not intangible impacts, for quite some time for that matter. Now, over time, this better allows elected officials to take into account important issues. So, for example, in the West Island, they had a slogan to make visible the invisible. And in so doing, they raised awareness with regards to housing issues in an area of the city where wealth is perceived to be. But this led to affordable housing in Pierrefonds in the West Island. Now, if you look at the whole of these initiatives, we see that several neighborhoods work on several issues at once. Those that repeat especially are inclusion, housing, and food. Now, these initiatives have reinforced the social fabric, broken isolation, favor access to quality housing and quality food, if not contribute to school success. And there are many other influences that are not yet tangible. These influences and impacts will be felt over time, if not in a few years. Now, another perspective here, the CIP also allowed to reinforce various collaborative initiatives. And this is one of the bets of such a project, by reinforcing collaborative efforts towards target, that is one thing, but it's also about stepping back and looking at practices, always with this target of changing situations. Let's go to the second component regarding evolution and impacts with regards to partnership of the different governance bodies. So we need to remind ourselves here that at the beginning, well, there had been quite a bit of forays with regards to partnership, and sometimes change is so well integrated that we almost take them for granted. What we do need to remember is that when the CIP was launched, it was an original type of collaboration, and it was the first time, to our knowledge, that so many philanthropy players came to the table along with other organizations. And Soutenir was already collaborating with the city, but not necessarily with the other foundations. So there were ties that were created, collaboration, greater knowledge thanks to the CIP, and over time, this also allowed for collaboration outside of the project. Several people have mentioned that they now look towards collaborating together. There have been common initiatives during the pandemic and also initiatives to meet specific issues such as community housing purchase through real estate initiatives, which itself was the result of networking and crosstalk and collaboration. Now, one person has explained that transformation is progressive, given understanding, feeling valued, and recognition through the various partners, and also to realize the importance of having various players whose role is to favor collaboration and who support collaborative approaches. Now, these are things that we now take for granted, but this was not the case when we started. So this reflects how far things have come along. Now, we also notice that there is a greater sharing of power. Let us remember that the project was thought of by two philanthropy players, and the main orientations had been set, but with a reflective approach with evaluation, there's been increasing flexibility so that community members be part of decision making and part of discussions, namely when we think of phase two. And as we speak, there are now community members in every single body regarding the project. Entraide was a convener role. It was the operator and moderator for the collective. It also is a convener in other projects, such as Conversation on Housing, and they also administer partner funds. So according to various players, the CIP has brought Centraide to United Way, really, to become more agile, to have more simplified processes. The last component are systemic changes. This was probably the hardest one to analyze because it has not been very documented. So partners may not have influenced public policy, but on all other conditions, they have definitely moved forward, given transformation of how work is done, how funds are allocated, how they position themselves in the neighborhood. And so there are many paths forward that can be identified, namely greater confidence with the neighborhoods, more recognition and evolution with regards to power dynamics. Now, as for neighborhood, we looked at this once again in a very cross-sectional fashion, and this allows us to highlight that there's been influence on local policies, on zoning, on regulation, on mental models even, that is in various neighborhoods. There's been a recognition of poverty issues by elected representatives, which was not the case before these initiatives unfolded. It was also about destigmatizing issues such as a lack of hygiene. So, without going into all these various conditions, it's really about a multiplicity of the different influences that reflect the CIP contribution. And there's also a contribution to the sustainability of the various changes that have unfolded. And this opens, well, wonderful perspectives if we think of players